You falsely accusing the guys of saying the word Mark Andreessen.
Such bullshit. Just confused. Yeah, I made videos debunking this, but I just confused. There's two old white bald men that run this VC firm that, by the way, I don't cover, and I confused one for the other. It was Ben Horowitz instead of wait. Oh my god, I'm gonna f up today.
Ben Horowitz
it was
instead
Ben
of Mark
Horowitz
Andreessen.
instead of Mark Andreessen. So it's like, oh, okay, I said the founder of one thing instead of the founder of the other. And by the way, I wasn't the original reporter that said that was not me.
And you deleted it right away, and you clarified.
Yeah, exactly.
Which to me, it's kind of like,
for
well,
120 seconds. It's like, oh, sorry, I confused one bald man for another in a single tweet once 5 years ago, and I corrected it immediately. Like, shut the f up. If you're gonna persecute me for that, oh please.
Like, for sure, you're allowed to give you some for getting that wrong, but to like still be talking about 5 years later and having that be like a critique of your character as a whole, I mean, that just seems kind of ridiculous.
You know what's so f***ed up and annoying is that my post was not necessarily defending him, but like my post was saying, I think this was like the era of Clubhouse. There was like 7 people on stage, and I don't know if you remember, but there was this big Clubhouse room about that, like, oh, he said this slur and da-da-da-da. My post, the whole tweet that I'm like getting canceled for is like, I said, look, if you're going to call out Ben Horowitz is who had said it, then call out the other 7 people on stage because they were on there too and they didn't say anything. So if you're so offended by this word, which I think you have every right, if people feel that that's an offensive word, sure, totally. If that's how you feel, then call out all 7 people. Don't just call out the one VC, which is so ironic because it's like kind of like low key like defending him, and then like people are like, oh, you're trying to cancel him. I'm like, what? Whatever.
There's a lot of people who don't want to let the word go easy.
Yeah, I mean,
I feel like it's kind of came back over the last year or so.
It's so funny because I mean, I'm a child of I was a teenager in the 2000s, and like I was recently watching There's Something About Mary. Have you seen that? Recently?
Yeah.
There's so much in that movie where I'm like, oh my god, like people don't speak like this anymore. My feeling is like, personally, I try to be sensitive. If somebody doesn't want language, or somebody says, hey, that language is offensive, I don't care. You know, I'm not somebody that's. I want everybody I'm talking to feel comfortable, so whatever. But I'm not the type to run around and police what other people are saying. So it was annoying that my tweet was framed that way.
No, I mean, the world has changed because my kid is she's 3 years old. She's obsessed with princess books. And some of the narratives in these princess books are like absolutely terrible. Like really shocking shit. I mean, Snow White, she's like passed out in the woods, and then a guy comes along and kisses her and she comes back to life and they fall in love, and like my kid is just geeked up over these stories. And I'm kind of like, we've slowly started to like kind of take the princess books away because we have other books now that are like way more positive and like teaching her, you know, good lessons and stuff. But a lot of this stuff from the 50s and shit, it's just like, oh my god, like you would really be doing your kid a disservice if you were like, no, this is classic Americana. My kid needs to read all these books.
Yeah.
Like she's already on board with it to some extent, but like, I don't know. It's just, there is a lot of stuff that I can get behind.
I'm glad we're evolving. I think it's like, you know, everybody do you evolve. I'm not a huge, I also think it's like, who are you getting angry at? Are you getting angry at some 15-year-old online? Are you getting angry at some 65-year-old man? People grew up in different eras, not to excuse it, but you know.
So why did you ultimately end up leaving the Times?
I got a way better job offer.
Oh, really? Was that? Okay.
The Times is just like, they don't pay you anything. Their whole thing is like, oh, well, you get to work at the New York Times. And it's like, I don't care. I've worked there for almost 3 years, and I got a book deal. And so it was like, kind of like, I was getting paid nothing. And once they've got you at the Times, it's always like, oh, what are you going to do? Like, leave the Times? And I'm like, well, maybe if somebody's going to pay me way more money. And also my book deal, they're very restrictive around book stuff. So like the way that I wanted to promote my book, the stuff that I wanted to do, like that was going to be an issue. They're very controlling around books and weird about it. So I wasn't open to it, but like the post had been hitting me up a lot. And I was like, well, let me see what they'll offer me. I'll just throw something out. And if they give it to me, I'll do it. And they gave it to me. And I was like, why not?
That's interesting. Because there's definitely some people that I have spoken to over the years that work at the Times where I'm like, oh, so you're just on board with this thing for the rest of your life.
Oh, you could stay there. And by the way, it's impossible to get fired. They have a very strong union, which is great.
Really?
Like, you could stay there forever. And I think if my goal was just to write articles for the next 40 years, sure. That's not... Personally, I'm more into other stuff than that. I don't know. I like journalism, but I'm not... Like, I don't want to be there forever. But it's fine. It's a great... I mean, the people are really... I love my editor. I would have died for her.
Okay, so my favorite Times writer is John Caramonica.
Of course.
Huge fan.
He and I tried to get him to do a podcast with me. We were gonna do when we were leaving, I wanted to do a podcast. That was another reason I left the Times.
Interesting.
Yes.
He it's weird to see his content because to me he's one of the best people talking about music and hip hop and shit, but he kind of gets like siloed into this weird world because of the Times image.
Yes.
That like the couple of times that I've heard like New York radio personalities beef with him, like Peter Rosenberg or Ebro getting into them on Twitter, I'm like, oh shit, like it's just like kind of weird to see them even talking to him because the Times brand is like, no, you don't go argue with people on Twitter, which really I think was probably a big part of why people kind of felt a way about you at a certain point, is that you were just a lot more outgoing on social media.
I know. I don't know that they love that, although I never got in trouble for it. So whatever. I actually did get in trouble. The one time I got in trouble, I missed the C train one time, and I tweeted like all caps like I fucking hate America or something, and I got to work. My boss was like, "Don't just say that," and I was like, "Oh, I have to be patriotic now." But yeah, John is great. I mean, he has Popcast now with Joe too. He was doing that.
They're adapting.
They're great. John is really great. I mean, there's a lot of great culture. It's just John is somebody that's been there for a long time, and I think is a phenomenal reporter. And I don't know, I think he could leave and be very successful, but I think he likes it.
You think you should start a Substack?
I don't know about the whole Substack thing, but
if I was the New York Times, I would not let him go start a Substack.
No.
That's like their thing.
No, yeah. Well, I'm sure they love John, and I think they want to keep him.
Okay, interesting.